Welcome everyone, I'm Dr. Chris Stanek. Today we're going to talk about abdominal bracing. If you're new to the channel, thank you for coming in. If you're one of my patients, and we've talked about this before, it should be a good review for you. So the first thing is, what is abdominal bracing? Abdominal bracing is just a strategy used by fitness professionals and yoga instructors, Pilates instructors, physiotherapists, chiropractors, maybe some physicians out there are teaching this too, but it's just it's a key word. It's a root word for what people know as spine stability. So you may have heard it in the form of drawing in, bringing your belly button to spine. There's probably numerous other additions that are out there, but those are the few popular ones that I know. I like to use abdominal bracing because it just makes the most sense in terms of what you're doing. You're bracing kind of your abdominal wall to create spine stability. So don't get caught up in the words. I've read it so many different ways, and even in my PT books they called it abdominal bracing, and then they had the abdominal Hallowing. So Hallowing versus abdominal bracing is and was, I guess, catch-22. So one side says that you need to pull your belly button towards your spine for Hallowing to get your transverse abdominis. The other side wants you to contract everything. And that's what Stuart McGill talks about with abdominal bracing. When he refers to abdominal bracing, he's talking about trying to contract everything in the entire abdominal wall, including your back. So all the way around. It's like a 360-degree contraction. Protection that you potentially are getting. Drawing your belly button towards your spine is different. That's just trying to activate this thing called the transverse abdominis. It's the deepest muscle that you have. That's part of your core. It wraps all the way around your spine. But with that, what research shows is that your transverse abdominis contraction alone is going to kind of inhibit a high contraction of the rest of your core muscles. So the rationale is you don't want to inhibit any of the muscles that contract in your spine. So I like to use abdominal bracing, and I like to teach it the way Stuart McGill does teach it, and that's what I'm going to go over a little bit of today. So it's a very important technique for you to learn. So we talked about what abdominal bracing is. We talked about how the words don't matter. So whatever people say, don't blame them for using a different word if they're achieving the same goal. So all of this stuff should achieve one thing, and that is spine stability and control and picking up on movements and things like that to protect yourself. Okay, so now that we've talked about what abdominal bracing is and some of the key words and some of the things you may have heard before, let me give you an example on why it's important and how it works. So I have a few bands here to help illustrate some of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these bands, we're going to tie it to the pole. If I pull down from one side to the other, I now have this nice stability going in this left and right direction. Now this is great and all, but if I have any kind of forces go at any other vectors other than this way and this way, I'm going to have a little bit of instability. These can help make up for it, but it's not going to be as good as if I had another band pulling in the opposite directions. So from forward to back now. So now if I have the bands going forward, back, and side to side, I'm now going to have this kind of north, south, east, west protection. Sorry, I can't really show you, but I hope you understand kind of how this is working. Now, if we keep adding bands going at different angles, maybe in this kind of southeast, northwest kind of direction, now we have stability going this way. And this is why it's important for me to teach abdominal bracing, because you want all of the muscles contracting to support you, not just one, okay? They're there for a reason. Now that you kind of understand that, let's illustrate it through how it would look like on your body. So of course you guys know what the rectus abdominis is. You've probably done a crunch or two in your life. Okay, it originates all on the bottom shelf of your ribs right here. Goes all the way down to your iliac crest, your pelvis, and then to your pubic bone, all the way down here. So if you envision from the side, if I get this band nice and tight, it's going to pull me here, okay? If I put one on my back, representing my back extensors, I'm now going to have this way pulling me here, okay? Then we have our transverse abdominis, which goes all the way around like this, and that makes like a constriction. It's kind of like your mouth or your eyes, the way they kind of close like this, your throat. And then we have our internal and external obliques. Now this is the biggest part about the bracing strategy, is finding these obliques. They run from here to here like this, at kind of a northwest, southeast direction. And then they have so the internal are going this way, and the external are coming down like this, creating. Alright, I'm back. I had to delete some old photos and videos from my phone. I have a 7-month-old daughter, and I can't help but keep the videos on my cell phone and on the cloud in case something happens and I lose them. I want to have that backup on my phone still. So anyway, can't lose my precious videos of my daughter. So we're talking about the internal and the external obliques and how they run in sort of this diagonal pattern from here to here and then this direction. So you get this nice cross action right here. So when you contract these muscles, they actually lock down like a Chinese finger trap. So they're crossing themselves like this and kind of cinching you tight, as if you were tying up a weight belt or a girdle or something like that. You can imagine like a basket weave kind of look right through here. And that's why it's important to teach abdominal bracing, in my opinion, because it's about really feeling the obliques contract along with everything else. And that's what we're going to go over next, is just how you can assess yourself if you're doing it, and then how to hopefully teach yourself, or hopefully this is a review for you as a patient. Alright, so now that you have a good understanding of what abdominal bracing is, some examples of how it's used to support structures in the physical world, like a building or holding up this dowel here, let's go over the technique on how to assess yourself if you're doing it, how to perform it, and how to fine-tune it, okay? So first things first is you have to understand that when you contract here, you're going to be limiting your diaphragm slightly from being able to go through its full excursion of pulling all the way down. Hopefully at rest, you're not using the full extent of your diaphragm. If you are, then it's time to get out there and do some cardiovascular exercise. So you're not going to be able to breathe as well. That's okay. Just keep breathing. The next thing is you have to understand that this is not an all or nothing principle. You're going to learn to fine tune your abdominal muscles, your abdominal wall muscles, by basically treating your contractions like a dimmer switch. So you're going to try and do this technique to a 5% degree of your maximum contraction. You're going to try to do it at 17, you're going to try to do it at 26, at 30, at 40, and just get comfortable with the levels of contraction that you may need. You're going to take 2 fingers and just kind of press in right here, okay? Press in deep to where you start to feel some firm muscles, okay? You may have to push deeper, and I promise you can find it, okay? So I'm going to try and push my fingers out and then maintain this contraction right here, okay? So it's as if I'm hitting a ball. If I was playing tennis, if I was playing baseball, whatever it may be, it's a quick pulsing of tightness through here. Now, that's how I like to teach it initially, because most people understand how that feeling works. It's like a cough. It's something that we all naturally do, or even when we laugh, ha 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 ha. you feel this thing contract. I don't know how many times I teach patients, and while I'm teaching them, they cannot figure out how to contract here, but as soon as they laugh, they then start to notice that there it is. That's the abdominal brace right there. So again, take the fingers in here. I'm going to do it slowly now because I want you to learn how to do it to a certain degree and hold it. So I'll say maybe 20% to myself right now, and there it is. I'm already here. If I want to go 100%, it's hard to talk while I'm kind of dialing it in, but you can see here, I'm keeping my brace. It's 100%, so I'm pretending like I'm carrying, 200 pounds or whatever. So it's hard to breathe. So you have to take little sips of air. So you can see I'm simulating a heavy lifting situation. Now, when you're walking around and doing things in real life, or I don't know, is the gym not real life? I guess it's not. But anyway, as you're walking around during the day and just casually going about your activities during the day, you're maintaining a 5 to 10% brace. I usually teach my patients anywhere from 5 to 10 is a good place to start for walking around. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have, right now I'm doing that's my 5 to 10% brace. And I can just walk around and do my normal thing, and it's hardly anything. But it's important to be able to dial it in like this. So you have to go lay down, you have to go to a quiet room and sit there with your hands right here on your obliques, going towards your belly button with your fingers and practicing that subtle little push. And now I feel a nice contraction right here. And that's kind of the start of abdominal bracing. All right, so every time you do anything today, walking around, I want you to think to yourself, do I have a little bit of tone right here in that same kind of description we talked about? This will help you start to think about it more and more, and then become more subconscious as you practice. And that way, when you're doing something very strenuous, or there's a busy environment and you're not paying attention, you're subconsciously doing it, and you're ramping it up when you need it. So when you pick up something heavy or push open a door or something like that. So that's the abdominal brace. Now, to take it one step further, we're going to talk about trying to get the lumbar extensors and the glutes to fire too at the same time. Now, this is beyond the beginner level. So if you're just starting out, start with just here and practicing that move, pulling out and pushing out. The next one I want to go over for the more intermediate to advanced people out there, we're going to talk about trying to get the lumbar extensors to fire a little bit too. So if you remember from the very first part of my video, we talked about how the rectus pulls you this way, and then your extensors here pull you this way. What you want to do is try and find this nice balance of trying to contract, or trying to move into a posture really, of pulling down without actually letting the pull happen, and pulling back without letting the back actually happen. Now I know this sounds crazy. You may want to start with something like trying to contract your bicep and your tricep at the same time. So I'm actively, it's almost like I'm trying to intimidate somebody like a fist like this, okay? So try to contract your bicep by extending your elbow, and your bicep by flexing your elbow. Hopefully I said that right. Tricep extends, right? Yeah. So anyway, I'm trying to actively do that and try and dial that in the same way as I'm about to try to dial in both of these contractions. So this is important because you're creating a nice, stable environment here along with your bracing. Here, you're now trying to think about that backwards, forwards direction. And I'll sit here, and a lot of times I check myself often when I'm exercising to make sure I'm not getting too fatigued, because sometimes you can't feel fatigue in these muscles. They just stop wanting to contribute to movement or contribute to your stability. So I'm trying to brace and feel for my lumbar extensors to fire. And now I feel I forgot to mention, you want to have a little bit of a glute squeeze to kind of pull you this way, and then you have your rectus pulling you that way, but then the extensors are counteracting it. So it's this fine tuning again. You're not trying to do this today and then go practice heavy lifting with it. You're going to practice carrying things. You're going to practice bending over to pick things up. All very lightweight, just so you can work on the control. So again, for the advanced to intermediate people out there, you're trying to brace here, squeeze the glutes to pull the pelvis underneath you, but then maintain some back extension. Pull the shoulder blades back, pull the shoulder blades down just a touch. And now this is like I'm trying to, I don't know, stop a freight train from running me over. I'm braced, okay? Everything can be tight. So for those of you who are trying this, I would do it the same way that we do the abdominal brace. Just practice. The practice schedule goes something like this. You're going to hold it for 10 seconds, 5 to 6 times. Here, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then relax. And then you can practice popping it on. 10 seconds. Or you can practice going nice and slow and dialing in that fine tuning. Alright, so now that you've learned how to do the abdominal brace and test yourself, let's talk quickly about the 5 to 10% rule and why it's important. So the 5 to 10% rule is that 5 to 10% of bracing that you should be doing all day long, all day strong. You should be doing it because you don't want any slack in the muscles that are supposed to be stabilizing you from little itty bitty movements in your spine. So if you're walking around all day like this, with your belly out, then every time I walk, it takes this much length to be gathered up to start giving you stability. So basically you're going to be rocking back and forth your joints and stressing the passive tissue structures in the joints, which causes arthritis, pain, movement dysfunctions. The list goes on. Tendinitis, tendinopathies, all of the above is going to eventually happen because of some sort of instability in your body. So you want to make sure you have that 5 to 10% on all day long. So if you think about it here with a band, you want that band to be nice and tight so it picks up on movement quicker rather than needing all of this before the muscle even starts to protect you. The joints have already gone through their motions by the time you get out to here. So it's very important that you learn to build this into your subconscious and then build in the dialing in of what you need for a particular task. So while you're walking around and you go to pick something up, your subconscious automatically tells you, okay, I should be bracing a little bit harder here. When I stand back up, I will not be bracing as hard anymore. You build it back into your natural postural control systems. You had it when you were a kid, you had it when you were a baby, but you lose it after a back injury, you lose it after poor movement choices, after fatiguing yourself at the gym too much and then going to do the rest of the things throughout the day, from sitting down. Again, the list goes on with this. So it's very important that you keep that brace on all day long, okay? Well, everyone, thank you for watching. This concludes the introduction for abdominal bracing. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned a lot from it. If you have any comments, requests, or any questions, just let me know down below and I'll get back to you. I look forward to seeing you all in the future. I will be releasing some more content soon. All right, guys, have a good day.